Welcome to ZoomInData. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining this detailed session on Azure Functions networking features. We will cover VNet integration, private endpoints, regional VNet, outbound restrictions, private DNS, subnet delegation, hybrid connections, inbound security, IP restrictions, service endpoints, on-premises connectivity, monitoring, plan differences, cold start impact, NSG rules, NAT gateway, isolated worker networking, event hubs security, cost implications, testing, and best practices for building secure, private, and performant functions. If you are preparing for certification, an interview, or designing secure Azure Functions architectures, this session will give you clear, ready-to-use knowledge. If you find it helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to ZoomInData for more Azure deep dives. Let us begin. What networking features are available in Azure Functions? Azure Functions supports several networking features to control inbound and outbound traffic, enable private connectivity, and integrate with virtual networks. Key capabilities include VNet integration for outbound traffic, private endpoints for inbound access, IP restrictions, service endpoints, hybrid connections, and NAT gateway support. Availability varies by plan. Premium and dedicated offer full networking features, while consumption is more limited. These features help meet compliance, security, and low latency requirements in enterprise environments. Explain VNet integration. VNet integration allows your function app to make outbound calls through your Azure virtual network, for example, to private endpoints or on-premises resources. It works by assigning the function app an outbound IP from a delegated subnet in your VNet. Available in premium and dedicated plans, not supported in consumption. Use it to access services that require private network access, such as private Azure SQL or internal APIs. How do private endpoints work? Private endpoints give your function app a private IP address inside your VNet, eliminating public internet exposure for inbound or outbound traffic. Create a private endpoint for the function app in your VNet. Traffic stays on the Azure backbone. Combine with private DNS zones to resolve the function app hostname to the private IP. This is the recommended way to fully privatize functions in regulated or zero-trust environments. What is regional VNet integration? Regional VNet integration is the modern, improved version of VNet integration introduced for better performance and scale. It uses a dedicated subnet delegation, Microsoft Web Server farms, and supports dynamic IP allocation. Available in premium and elastic premium plans, supports higher throughput and lower latency than the older model. It is the default and recommended option for new deployments. Explain outbound traffic restrictions. Outbound traffic restrictions limit which destinations your function app can reach, enforced via NSG rules on the delegated subnet. You can block public internet access or restrict to specific Azure services using service tags. Combine with private endpoints to force all outbound traffic through private links. This is essential for zero-trust architectures and compliance with data exfiltration rules. How do you configure private DNS? Create a private DNS zone for the function app hostname, e.g., privatelink.azurewebsites.net. Add an A record pointing to the private endpoint IP address. Link the private DNS zone to the VNet containing the function app. Ensure DNS resolution uses the private zone, Traffic never leaves the VNet. What is the role of subnet delegation? Subnet delegation dedicates a subnet exclusively to Azure Functions. It enables regional VNet integration. Delegate the subnet to Microsoft Web Server farms. This allows functions to use private IPs from that subnet. Without delegation, regional VNet integration cannot be enabled. Delegation prevents other resources from using the same subnet. Explain hybrid connections. Hybrid connections allow functions in Azure to connect securely to on-premises resources without VPN or express route. It uses Azure Relay to create a secure outbound tunnel from the function app to on-premises. Configure in networking right-pointing arrow hybrid connections. Install Hybrid Connection Manager on-premises. Useful for legacy systems that cannot move to Azure or use private endpoints. How do you secure inbound traffic? Use private endpoints to remove public internet exposure. Inbound traffic only from your VNet. Apply IP restrictions in networking right-pointing arrow access restrictions. Allow specific IPs or ranges. Enable Easy Auth with Entra ID or other providers for identity-based access. Combine with Azure Front Door or API management for WAF and global routing. What is IP restrictions in functions? IP restrictions allow or deny inbound traffic based on client IP address or range. Configure in function app right-pointing arrow networking right-pointing arrow access restrictions. Add allow, deny rules. Set default action to deny. Only approved IPs can reach the function. Supports IPv4, IPv6, CIDR notation, and service tags. Useful for allow listing corporate networks. Explain service endpoints for storage. Service endpoints provide private IP access to Azure Storage, blob, queue, table, from your VNet. Enable service endpoint on the subnet. Traffic to storage stays on Azure backbone. Use with VNet integration. Functions can access storage privately. Less secure than private endpoints. Use private endpoints for full isolation. Explain service endpoints for storage. Service endpoints provide private IP access to Azure Storage, blob, queue, table, from your VNet. Enable service endpoint on the subnet. Traffic to storage stays on Azure backbone. Use with VNet integration. Functions can access storage privately. Less secure than private endpoints. Use private endpoints for full isolation. What is the difference between VNet and private endpoints? VNet integration controls outbound traffic. Functions use your VNet for outbound calls. Private endpoints control inbound traffic. They give functions a private IP in your VNet for incoming calls. VNet integration is for outbound private access. Private endpoints are for inbound private access. Use both together for full network isolation. How do you monitor network traffic? Enable diagnostic settings on Function app. Send network logs to Log Analytics. Use Azure Monitor metrics for inbound, outbound bytes, connections, and throttling. Query Log Analytics for NSG flow logs or private endpoint traffic. Integrate with Network Watcher for packet capture and traffic analytics. Explain networking in Premium Plan. Premium Plan offers full networking support, regional VNet integration, private endpoints, hybrid connections. Pre-warmed instances eliminate cold starts. Networking features work without delay. Supports higher scale limits and faster scale out than consumption. Ideal for enterprise workloads requiring private connectivity and predictable performance. What is the impact on cold starts? VNet integration and private endpoints add slight cold start overhead. Instance must join VNet during startup. In consumption plan, cold starts are longer with networking features enabled. Premium plan pre-warmed instances remove this delay. Networking is ready instantly. Test cold start impact. Use premium for latency critical apps. How do you configure NSG rules? Create Network Security Group, NSG, on the delegated subnet used for VNet integration. Add inbound, outbound rules. Allow only required ports and service tags. Deny all other traffic. Enforce zero trust outbound restrictions. NSG rules apply to all functions using that subnet. Explain networking in consumption plan. Consumption plan supports only outbound VNet integration, no private endpoints or inbound private access. Limited to regional VNet integration for outbound calls to private resources. No support for hybrid connections or advanced inbound controls. Use premium or dedicated for full networking capabilities. How do you troubleshoot connectivity issues? Check NSG rules and route tables on the delegated subnet. Verify allow rules. Use Network Watcher, Connection Troubleshoot, Packet Capture, and IP Flow Verify. Test from functions. Networking. Test connectivity to target IPs, URLs. Enable diagnostic logs and query log analytics for failed connections. What is the role of NAT Gateway? NAT Gateway provides a fixed outbound public IP for functions using VNet integration. It replaces default dynamic IPs, useful for allow listing with external services. Attach NAT Gateway to the delegated subnet. All outbound traffic uses the NAT IP. Helps with compliance and firewall rules on third-party APIs. Explain networking for isolated worker. Isolated worker model, .NET, supports all networking features, VNet integration, private endpoints, hybrid connections. No difference from in-process model, networking is handled by the host. Use regional VNet integration for outbound and private endpoints for inbound. Ideal for .NET 6+ workloads with full private networking. How do you secure Event Hub's connections? Use Managed Identity for Event Hub's trigger and output binding, no connection strings. Grant identity Azure Event Hub's data receiver, sender roles. Enable private endpoints for Event Hub's namespace. Keep traffic private. Use VNet integration to restrict outbound access to event hubs. What is the cost impact of networking features? VNet integration and private endpoints have minimal direct cost, only subnet and DNS zone charges. Premium plan is required for most features, fixed base cost plus execution. NAT Gateway adds hourly and data processing charges. Overall cost is low compared to security and compliance benefits. How do you test network configurations? Use Azure Network Watcher. Test connectivity from function app to target IPs, URLs. Run packet capture on the delegated subnet to trace traffic flow. Deploy test functions. Attempt connections to private and public endpoints. Verify NSG rules, DNS resolution, and private endpoint routing. Best practices for functions networking. Use premium plan for full networking support, private endpoints and VNet integration. Enable private endpoints for inbound and outbound traffic. Eliminate public exposure. Use managed identities for all Azure service calls. No secrets. Restrict outbound traffic with NSG rules and service tags. Enforce zero trust. Configure private DNS zones for correct name resolution. Monitor network traffic and connectivity with Network Watcher and alerts. Test all network paths in staging. Validate before production rollout. Thank you for watching this complete guide to Azure Functions networking features, from VNet integration and private endpoints to security, monitoring, cost impact, and best practices. If this session helped you with certifications, interviews, or designing secure Azure Functions architectures, please like, share, and subscribe to ZoomInData. More Azure deep dives are coming soon. Stay connected and keep learning. Thank you. See you in the next video.